Now that we've entered 2019, Bungie's Destiny 2 is under increased pressure due to the split from Activision and increasing competition from other similar games such as Warframe, The Division 2 and Anthem. Destiny 2 in its present state is the best it has been, but its future is also the most uncertain it has been. Much has changed with the game from the 2018 review I did, most of which has seen the sci-fi fantasy shooter implement several notable changes which has seen Destiny 2 resemble more of its predecessor whilst giving players more and better content. From new raids and play spaces, the introduction of random rolls on weapons, new game modes and the changes to PvP, Destiny 2 is finally somewhat where it needs to be. But Bungie still has their missteps when it comes to content drops, what they want the game to be and how to satisfy their core fan base. Destiny 2 is at a crossroads where it will go down a path of greater success or step away from the spotlight as more of its fan base moves on to other similar games that offer a richer loot-based experience. From what the game needs in the future, how that will impact Destiny 3, and how its competition from other games may or may not impact Bungie's ever-evolving shooter. This is my review of Destiny 2 in 2019. Before I get into the review properly, to know more about the issues the game had before, plus how it plays, looks and sounds, please check out my 2018 review in the description down below. Now moving on, no review of Destiny 2 can miss the huge impact of what the Forsaken expansion has had on the game. Much like the Taken King DLC from the first game, Forsaken took the base game and turned it into something that many players wanted from Destiny 2 at launch. Perhaps the greatest change to be introduced was that of random rolls on weapons. An omission from the base game, the impact that this had could be felt across much of the game. Rewards and loot, apart from being too easy to acquire, meant that there was no need to grind for the perfect roll. Reintroducing random rolls meant players could now repeat the activities in an effort to have the weapon thereafter drop with the roll they wanted. Standardised weapons are great when trying to balance them between PvE and PvP, but random rolls were a huge part of the first Destiny, and much of the fan base never wanted them gone. Perhaps the decision was made in an effort to make the game appeal more to the casual player, but the consequence was many hardcore players had everything within a few weeks of the game's release, with no need to run the same content over and over. Forsaken also brought with it the new play spaces of the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City, the Last Wish raid, plus new story missions and gear to earn. A good move from Bungie was to stagger content of the expansion over a number of weeks, so there was always reasons to log into the game. Players also had a huge amount of daily and weekly bounties to complete across both PvE and PvP to earn powerful gear and rank up their factions, and whilst this provided a lot to do, I found many of these bounties to become tiresome fairly quickly. Running the same activities in the same places over the days and months made it feel less of being enjoyable and more of being a chore. Couple this with the issue that some of these were much more rewarding than others to do. What I would like to see Bungie introduce is more ways in which to receive rewards. For those who enjoy running strikes, raids or PvP for example, allow them to earn the loot drops from the activities that they enjoy playing most. Many PvE players have no interest in the Crucible, and many competitive players prefer the PvP over much of the PvE content. And that brings me to the game mode of Gambit, a hybrid of PvE and PvP, where 2 teams of 4 fight against AI as well as other Guardians at certain times of the match. Having more game modes and options is usually a good thing, but I feel Gambit is a wasted opportunity. Matches can be lengthy, and then players need to ask the question, is it worth it? I find myself skipping Gambit bounties completely as I don't have interest in playing the mode. Changes are said to be coming to this game mode, so I'm eager to see what's added, and hopefully it's another activity I enjoy spending more of my time in. Now, one main area that I find Destiny still struggles with is making sure the content being played is worthy of the player's time. Often the rewards simply aren't there, and because of that, I begin to question why it is I'm doing many activities. Many players play Destiny each week, but only to complete the milestones in order to receive the powerful gear rewards and to increase in level. Once these are complete, the reasons to play anymore that week are slim. If you continue to grind certain activities, then perhaps you'll be rewarded with a prime engram, but it's a time versus reward issue. And this is one of the main criticisms I have of the game. Destiny 1 felt like a hobby, something you did every day with other players. Destiny 2 has come to feel like a game you log in, complete the milestones, then leave it until the next week. And that is why I feel Bungie needs to implement changes so I do want to log in every day, regardless of if I finish the milestones or not. But moving on from Forsaken and onto more recent and future content with the Season Pass, those who paid for the add-on were given more content and activities for the endgame of Destiny 2, an area which received heavy criticism soon after the base game of Destiny 2 launched, and which Black Armory would help with, but this also introduced other problems. This was a different type of expansion to the game than what Bungie had created in the past, and what many players discovered was that unless you were of a very high light level, there wasn't much, if anything, to do for those who weren't. Upon release of each expansion in the past, Destiny players would usually receive new story missions and new areas to explore, which you would most likely play as soon as you got the expansion. Black Armory was different. In Bungie's attempt to satisfy the more hardcore players, and their thirst for more endgame content with additions such as new gear and weapons and activities such as the Forges, it alienated everybody else who wasn't of that level to undertake the activities. Many who had already bought the Season Pass found there was nothing new for them to do, and instead keep playing the same content they already had been since Forsaken launched. My view of this can be summed up quite simply. Bungie need to cater for the hardcore fanbase as they will keep Destiny 2 alive the most, and the game does need more endgame content for high level players. But Bungie also needed to have some new content available for everybody to do on day one of Black Armory. That is part of what makes a good expansion, DLC or add-on. It caters to all players who would have already been playing the previous content, and it offers content that is worth the money they paid for it. So now, let's talk about the state of the Crucible in 2019. Bungie has implemented several changes to the game which has had an impact on the Crucible, and overall, it's been for the better. Beginning in mid-2018, the Crucible went back to the classic 6v6 like in the first game, as opposed to the 4v4 of Destiny 2 at launch. This makes the Crucible quick play more hectic and fast, and more akin to the first Destiny. But the downside is that the maps aren't designed with these numbers of players in mind, so they can feel a little bit small. Bungie has also lowered the time to kill, which many players were asking for, and this has made needing to stick near teammates a lot less necessary in the Crucible now, opening up more options whilst playing, which is a good thing. The changes to the weapon system has also changed all parts of the game. Whereas the power slot used to include rocket launchers, shotguns, grenade launchers, sniper rifles and others, meaning you could only use one of these at once, it is now possible to, for example, equip a shotgun and a rocket launcher at the same time, and these changes have been beneficial in giving players more options when it comes to their loadouts. And that brings us to the future content coming in the existing Season Pass and what 2019 holds for Destiny 2. One area which Bungie must continue with is having hidden quests which players can discover, plus dropping new quests for weapons or items outside of the main content drops. Bringing back old weapons certainly tugs on the nostalgia chord, especially when it's something like the Last Word quest, which is now available. This keeps players engaged with the game and also shows players that Bungie is actively supporting the game. Both Joker's Wild and Penumbra will be the next two expansions to the game, but we don't know exactly what these will offer, and Bungie does not have the best reputation when it comes to the quality of their expansions outside of the main drops, such as Forsaken and the Taken King. What these add to the game remains to be seen, but more interesting is just what is in store for Destiny fans beyond the Season Pass. With Bungie's split from Activision, Bungie now has full control of their game. But that also means funding and any future content, and each decision made, for better or worse, now rests upon their shoulders. The days of players blaming Activision's interference as to why something is or isn't a part of the game are no more. With many content creators toning back their Destiny 2 content and replacing it with that of other games, Bungie must make sure there is enough worthwhile content to play, or have their player base fracture even further. As I mentioned in my 2018 review of Destiny 2, it is very much a game that players need to play in order to find out if it is for them. The difference though between early last year and now though is that players are soon going to have more options when it comes to these types of games. Destiny 2 must contend with The Division 2, Warframe and Anthem. For all of the problems The Division had, it is in a much better position these days. Although not perfect, I'd expect the best parts of the game to be a part of The Division 2. Warframe continues to go from strength to strength with their content drops, and just how much content that game now has over its lifespan, and it's free to play. Perhaps Destiny 2's greatest threat is that from BioWare's Anthem. Although third person, it is another sci-fi fantasy shooter. It not having PvP could be an issue post-launch, but if content is added to it regularly and it has a healthy player base, then it could certainly take some of the Destiny 2 player base if they decide it offers a more robust, loot-based PvE experience. Many eyes will be on Destiny 2 this year and where the franchise goes from here. Just know that if you're a new player, the game has a lot to like about it. It's just whether you feel it deserves your time over the competition. Let me know down below what your thoughts about Destiny 2 as it is now, and what you want to see in the future. Will you be playing any other loot-based games this year? Please leave a comment and a like, and I hope to see you on the next video.